passport ready. I had my ferry ticket and fuel receipts.
I'd made it across the border into Spain, and despite my fears about border control and all of the hype that we're hearing in the news, I just kind of drove in. Even as I approached this, what looked like a giant light bar across the road, I thought this may be border control. I may have to start getting my stuff in order. But no, it's just a toll booth.
Go on then, how much you want to sting me? Ah, 450, I can deal with that. Hello Spain, you beautiful bastard. And hello service area, that's where I'm staying tonight. Get down.
I pulled into the service area for a much needed sleep. However, it was a little confusing. I ended up in the truck area instead of the camper area, which looked a lot nicer. Then on Lance's nighttime dog walk, I spotted it and decided to move. However, this took me back onto a roundabout, which took me back onto the motorway. So that was the end of that spot. I had to continue on to my original parkour plan. Good morning. Let's see what amazing view we have today. However, oh, that's a happy sight.
Not the most picturesque place in the world, and you probably can't hear me because of the motorway. This was just an overnight spot, because my overnight spot last night, in all my infinite wisdom, decided to move the van, hit the roundabout, which took me straight back onto the motorway, and I had to drive another 20 minutes. It's saying 6.5 more hours to the actual where I'm going in Portugal. Realistically, that's more like 7.5 in that, because I'm cruising at like 60. And oh, sorry, I've just woke up. Oh, good sleep though, really needed that sleep. Yeah, it's blue sky. Apart from over there, where that's basically France. Off the road, give him a bit of a walk somewhere, and then yeah, hit the road again. Oh, some food, and then it's the last push really. Yeah, buddy. This doesn't even feel like Spain. It's had a good downpour here last night. Everything's wet. It's no warmer than England, but then you look at the surroundings and you realise, yeah, actually, and you can't see all because there's trees everywhere, but I can. Right, my phone mount that used to sit on the windscreen, all the sticky bit went really gooey and horrible, and yeah, night one it fell off the windscreen. Has been a nightmare ever since. So I've took all the sticky bit off, and I'm now going to try and bolt it through the speaker cover so that it kind of just sits like that. That should be alright. See, I was about to just throw this away, and then I thought, you know what? Why? Because the phone holdy bit is still bang on. There was the nut. There we go. Oh, it even rotates, look at that. Oh. That it? There we go. Now I've just got to clean all that crap off my windscreen. Don't know what happened with it, it just perished. And there, doesn't get in my way. And I can still plug her in. Oh my god. This is the steepest hill I have ever seen. Where last night's park up was on a really weird junction, so I just bashed the next destination into the sat-nav and blindly followed it. And it took me up this hill. Oh, where's it taking me now? After making it to the top and giving the engine a thoroughly good warm-up. You sat-nav!
Well, the tarmac disappeared.
Not the best start to the day, is it, Lance, eh?
The track went on for a fair while, but luckily the rest of it was downhill, and eventually it took me over the motorway that I needed to be on. So I decided to do what I should have done at the very start and look myself, rather than just being a lemming and following the sat-nav.
So this just took me this way when I could have just gone around the roundabout and joined. What a stupid piece of shit. Nearly blew up my fucking engine doing that.
Then the road presented me the next challenge of the day.
You have got to be joking.
Bearing in mind how wide my van is, plus the awning cassette, yeah, this was tight. But within seconds, this lovely Spanish chap come to the rescue by giving me an extra pair of eyes, and I was through.
Ooh.
Now free of the perilous dirt tracks and the tight squeezes of the side roads, I could get back on the motorway and start making tracks. Now I was in Spain and the fuel is cheap, so I pulled into a petrol station to fill the tanks. I pulled into pump number 9, couldn't remember what 9 was in Spanish, so went to pump uno.
Right, just brimmed the tank and the jerry can for €80, and yeah, I come to pump number 1 so I can say uno por favor. And yeah, when I went to pay, I got 2 boxes of these, and they're sweets, and they're really nice. This is why I like Spain. Right, that is 120 litres of fuel on board. And that should get me 450, 500 miles depending on terrain, and that is the majority of what I got to do today. So it should be the last fuel stop in theory. That means I didn't have the I've been keeping tabs on it, so that means spent 116 in England before I got the train, and 183 euros 50 my second fuel stop, and then I put 30 euros in France because I didn't want to fill up again in France. I was nearly here. And then 80 euros here today. The train at the minute was 120 quid, 130 quid. And that's all figures that I can't figure out in my head right now. But that plus, let's call it 2 days, I'm still classing as cheaper than what it was to get the Plymouth to Santander ferry. That's what I wanted to do, and the reason I didn't is because at the moment you have to have a cabin, and with the Lance I had to have a pet friendly cabin obviously, and oh god, these views are insane. And then sold out. I tried every single ferry from Plymouth and Portsmouth to Santander and Bilbao a week prior and 2 weeks ahead of when I wanted to go. Every single ferry, the pet friendly cabins were booked up, so I couldn't do it. Oh, I don't think I gave the price of the ferry, did I? So the ferry was going to be 650 euros including cabin. 650 pounds, sorry, including cabin, to get over here. So I think I did alright. France, it wasn't exactly an amazing drive. I did most of it at night. France on that route down to Spain is very flat and a bit boring when you're just driving through. But now, the moment I'm in Spain, oh, you're back there. I'm going to slap a big dirty time lapse on this now, because I'm long hauling it.
So I carried on, mile after mile, hour after hour. The weather ever changing above my head, mostly rain. But I was being kept sane by the views out the windows and the massive amount of podcasts that I downloaded for the trip. At this point I think I'd listened to 9, and they're all 3 hours each. But with a colossal amount of miles just following a ribbon of tarmac, you sort of lose track of time. Before you knew it, the 4-hour podcast was over and you were flicking on to the next one. But that actually helped me a lot because those 3 to 4 hours just seemed to fly by without losing concentration. I was travelling down Spain sort of diagonally, through Salamanca and Plasencia, and it's actually a very rural route, and as you get down towards the centre of Spain, it gets very canyony. Hours went by before I realised I'd actually done this exact route 2 years ago.
Just gets any warmer, I'll be pulling over to get me shorts and flip-flops on. 5.5 hours, 381 miles. But to be honest, now I'm out of France, I'm chill. I don't really. I think this is the same route I took when I came the first time. It hasn't quite sunk in yet. I'm in Spain. 2 days ago I was in the UK.
Once again the storm clouds flared up and I was in for a bout of rain. But unlike France where it is just constant, here when the rain stopped it just kept getting warmer and warmer, letting me know that I was getting ever closer to the destination. There was plenty of rest stops, mostly to let Lance out for a wee and stuff, but also to make sure the van was doing okay. She's getting old and this is one hell of a trip, so routine checks of things like oil, coolant and just having a general look around was quite important. But everything was good and the dog was now empty, so we could set off again. When you've only ever driven in England like I had a few years previous, the thought of travelling, say, Birmingham to Glasgow seems like a big trip. The moment you start driving across the continent you realise that our little island is just a blip. It's hard to get your head around just how big it is and how long you can drive. That 4-hour Birmingham to Glasgow journey becomes nothing.
Something tells me it's gonna rain again. I thought by this point, what are we in now? 20 something hours driving with 2 sleep breaks. I thought I'd be going mad by now, but I'm alright. Especially now I'm in Spain, there's just everywhere you look there's something to look at. I downloaded a load of Joe Rogan podcasts prior to this, bearing in mind most of them are 3 hours long. Oh, something really smells like shit. Oh. Overtake properly. Oh, it's that field. That field has been manured. Fucking hell, that's tangy. Other than the smell, yeah, I've got views now. The storm is passing over that way, and I'm heading that way. So, blue sky over there. And yeah, I'm doing alright. Just realised now, being behind this motorhome, pretty sure I've got to have one of them red and white striped boards on the back. I've got one. It's been cooped up in the cupboard for I don't know how long, but that's just jogged my memory. So yeah, I better pull over and put that on.
Now don't ask me the technicalities of the red and white striped boards, I'm not entirely sure. The way I think it works is if you've got something that sticks off the back of the vehicle that's a hazard, you need to stick one of these on. I've seen them mostly in Spain, but I've also seen them in other countries. I just follow suit and stick it on the back, having the spare wheel, ladder and jerry can on the rear.
Right, it's getting late now. I'm almost there, but I've decided to take a little bit of a detour.
Because this was the route I took on the last trip, there's a spot I stayed at last time that's always stuck in my memory, and I said to myself if I was ever this way again I'd have to drop back and stay there again. It was only half an hour off my route and it was starting to get dark, so I needed a spot, so it made sense. The route to it was a pretty disused off-road track, and it was a good 2 or 3 miles down here until you got to the spot, but to me it was well worth it.
highly doubtful that the GoPro is picking that up, but that view is pretty damn incredible. Right, you can't really see out there. I tried with the camera, but you can't at the moment. So you guys will have to see it tomorrow, and I will explain why this spot is so special, really. But for now, I'm gonna make some food. Well, have made some food. Lance is having his dinner. We've just had a good throw with the ball, haven't we, mate? I'm gonna hit the sack because I'm knackered. Well, I promised you a view.
And now to ruin that fancy pants bit of video.
You ever sat down on the toilet too long and lost the blood to your legs? Oh, damn YouTube. Got loads of bits in your ears again, eh? Always, you're gonna need a brush. You're going to need a brush. Yes. I don't think you can quite gauge the size of that. I mean, there's a full-blown lorry going over it now. This canyon and that bridge is massive. I always knew I'd come back to this spot eventually. I remember it as clear as day coming across that bridge and seeing this spot. I saw the big flagpole and it was like, yes, I need to find my way there. And as it turns out, the track that you can see is not actually a road, it is just a service track to get to the bridge and do maintenance to the bridge. So it's a dead end essentially. So I found the entrance to that the last time and traipsed all the way down here. And this is the spot where I started to get van life. I started to figure out how things worked. You know, I had to do, this is the first time I ever did washing, for example, my clothes washing. And I had to get my bucket out and my travel wash and do it and hang it all up. And because I had this view, that laundry day was just incredible. I stocked up on a load of food last time, so I was like getting my head around cooking in the van, because the last time I was being chased from I don't know if you guys remember the Beast from the East back in 2018. That chased me all the way down the continent. So the whole drive, a bit like this one, was just nothing but rain. And yeah, I got to here and it stopped raining. So this was the first real time I got to use the van properly, if that makes sense. And yeah, it just, this spot cemented itself in the spot that I realised I loved doing this. I was still really nervous. I had no idea what I was doing, but because I'd spent nearly a week here, I just kind of got to grips with it, and it was like, yes, I can push the van, and I can get to spots that are just most wouldn't even attempt. The track's actually grown a bit more than last time, so I had to push my way through a bit more last night. Yeah, this was a spot of many firsts. Laundry day, doing some maintenance on the van. I was really nervous about doing something on the van and then it not starting, but it did. And then ironically, the beast from the east caught up with me, and the day I left, this whole track got washed out, and it was my first time of getting the van stuck. I slipped into a ditch, and within 10 minutes some farmers come and were happy to help me out. They were great. So this spot really did leave an impression on me, and to mark that, I actually left one of my old badges, my old magnetic badges that I used to sell through my business. I left them on the flagpole, assuming I'd never actually make it back here, and that it'd just stay there and overlook the canyon for the rest of time. And it's still there. I'm literally just waiting on an email now for the estate agent to give me a date and a time, and then when I come to leave, it's around the back of this canyon, and I'm going to take a slight detour, a nice little scenic route back onto the highway that I need, and then it's into Portugal. I don't think it quite comes across how big this canyon and that bridge is. There's nothing special, it's just a highway bridge, and there are so many of them, especially in this region, and it's just a feat of engineering. It is huge, and there's 3 more of them dotted down the way a little bit. There was one being built last time I was here, that's now finished. It's just incredible that, you know, oh well, we've got to build a highway, got to get over a canyon, let's build that. You know, this British stereotype of the Spanish are lazy and oh mañana. We don't build much like that, or if we do, it overruns by how much. There's a little guy just down the way fishing. He's just tucked behind the valley now, but he's just pooted along with his boat, and he just keeps popping into the little crevices and fishing. Other than that, and the odd car going across the bridge, there isn't anyone here. There's definitely something about Spain and Portugal. The moment I crossed that border, there was this feeling of elation and this pressure. I always feel like somebody's gonna have a moan or report me for something, or, you know, cause some sort of issue. That's all. It's just gone. You know, people just do their shit. They leave you alone. And instantly, the moment I crossed that border, I just felt this weight off my shoulders, off my chest. Yeah, there's something to be said about this part of the world.
Although I was waiting on an email from the estate agent, I'd realised it was actually a Sunday. Very easy to forget what day it is when you're doing this. And the next morning I did get an email from her, but it was far from what I'd hoped.
So the plot I'm going to look at is, I haven't been able to put the deposit down because until I've seen it in person, I don't really want to lose €1,000. So I'm there ready to see it tomorrow, but I've just got an email from the estate agent, and she's just said there's a couple going to view it today that might be putting their deposit down. So I've just drove 1,100 miles, and the plot might be gone by a day. Oh, that's not good. She said she's happy to show me around other properties if this does happen, but I don't know, this was pretty up there with exactly what I wanted. Oh, I'm gutted, I really am, if this goes. I've been looking at it for 3 months, and I had my opportunity to put my deposit down, but I held off. However, I have part paid for a solicitor to do all the checks, but it's because of everything that's been going on. I've just been stuck in limbo, and I was going to fly out and then fly home, but it was getting a bit awkward there, and then in the end I just thought, bugger it, I'll just drive it. But my gamble may not have paid off. I might drive there tonight, so I'm there, and then try and see if she'll do an early viewing, and if it works and if it's right for me, I'll try and get my deposit in quicker. Oh, could have been there today.
Although I hadn't heard if I could view the land or not, I headed off and made for the Portuguese border, hastily.